This was hard for me doing this
Oh,
mask. I was like, I'm going to be honest, I did 2 copies. First copy, I had like all this crazy stuff, and I was like, okay. And it was just really interesting thinking about the part of you that you show, that you're okay with showing, that you're more than okay with showing, versus the part of you that is more like, I don't know if I would freely show that.
all right. Well, on the front of mine, I wrote, it's interesting design today. I don't know. Funny, caring, and hardworking.
I relate to that. I
I
relate to that. I was couple. That was like similar to the first version of mine. Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. I like it. First word is insecure. Second is playful, and third is sensitive. Yeah, and so that was the hard one. The back for sure. And it's funny because I come off as being already vulnerable a lot. So it was like, what do I not show? What am I not okay with showing? And yeah, it definitely, and there's other things in there, I think. And I'll talk about that after you show your side.
Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Thomas Sage Pedersen. He's the host of Speak for Change podcast, and he's the CEO of the award-winning Everyone's Music School. In this podcast, we don't talk a lot about our careers as much unless it connects to our masks. And what you're going to hear in this conversation is a really meaningful conversation about lots of things, about camping, about outdoors, about kombucha, about masks, about connecting to ourselves, understanding our patterns. But more than anything, 2 men coming together just to learn about each other, really building a connection that in a very short amount of time has already shown itself to go deeper than we ever would have probably happened any other way. Really excited for you to hear this podcast. If you haven't yet had a chance to make your own mask, I invite you to go to 100kmasks.com and do that. And if you know somebody who you want to get to know a little better, maybe you can invite them to make a mask, and then you all talk about it. And if you have a conversation about it, please let us know, so we can learn how those conversations are going deeper than maybe normally would. So thank you for being here today. We're so glad you decided to join us, and enjoy the show. One of the things I was realizing as we were just kind of catching up right now is that I started making June. Now, June is a different version. It's like the champagne of kombucha, right? So you make it with honey and green tea.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so it comes out like really light. And so the honey. June is already, honey and green. Wow. And it's amazing. I mean, the SCOBY is like super white. Like, anyway, so I have a batch of that. I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to share some bottles with you.
Yeah. No, I want to kind of come down to what you're doing.
Yeah, man. Stuff, man. We're rocking it.
We're not that far from each other.
That's right. Right down the way. Man, well, listen, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. I am so glad to have you. Now, your name is Thomas, but do you go by something for short, or do you go by Thomas?
Just call me Thomas. Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do, Thomas, is I'm going to just have you introduce yourself, because I just want you to let the audience know who you are, what you're up to, and then at the end, you're going to give all the other stuff, but we'd love to just welcome you to the show by you tell us about your.
Yeah. So I'm the podcast host for Speak for Change podcast, which I had you on, which was awesome. I'm also the CEO of Everyone's Music School, which is an award-winning music school. I like throwing that in there. It makes it sound kind of cool.
You should.
We're here in Santa Cruz. I'm in Santa Cruz, California. And I do a lot of other stuff in the community. I'm a member of the steering committee for Santa Cruz County Black Coalition for Justice and Racial Equity. And so, I'd like to give back to the community in any way I can. And I'm always looking for ways to give back.
Man, well, I'm glad you're here. And we had a really powerful conversation just a little while ago. I feel like it was just like a couple of days ago, but maybe it was a week ago, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I still remember that I was like, I'm supposed to be crying over here on this show. Like, what's happening? Like, I just found myself like, and I had like had captured a piece of it, and I was like, oh wait, that's the picture. That's the part where I was crying. I'm not sharing that. I'm not sharing that. You know what I'm saying? It was just my audio right here. I was like, oh man, I remember that question, and it was like it was yesterday. So beautiful. So thank you, and I'm glad that you agreed to being here with us, because what we want to do with the Taking Off the Mask podcast is just a way for men to come together and have these conversations. Men my age, your age, younger men, because I think that there's such an opportunity for us to really connect, you know. And and our model is pretty simple. You made a mask already, and I made a mask, and we're just going to talk about our mask. We're just going to share it, you know, and the conversation will take itself where it needs to go. But what we try and help our young people and older people recognize is that if you don't have a place to really recognize that there's so much more to you than anybody can see just by looking at you, then you operate out of this box. And, you know, in our work, we talk about, someone just recently on the show said something about this term of confined masculinity. Confined, right? Where you get blocked in and boxed into a way of being that doesn't feel authentically you or all of you, or is what people need you to be, or it's what they're expecting you to be. And then sometimes people wake up and they're like, who am I? What's important to me, right? What's important to me? And I'm excited that we get to have this conversation today. So thank you.
Me too, man. And just to talk about the episode you were on on my podcast, that was a deep episode, man, for I think both of us. I think that was really good, and I appreciate you going there. And I really appreciate it 100%.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for making it happen. It happened. It did happen. So, but as you know, I tell people I'm not afraid of crying, but I definitely know that in the last, say, 10 years of my life, I probably cried more in these last 10 years, maybe even in the last 5 of the 10, but definitely in the last 10 than I have in the first 30 plus, right? Like, I'm sure of it, right? Because I know that there was rules in my life that was like, men don't cry. You don't show no feeling. Definitely not in where anybody would see it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, the interview's over and then I'm you know what I'm saying? Then I'm gonna cry off stage, but I'm never let anybody see it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I get into a place where I choose when, you know, but sometimes it just pops and I'm like, how much am I need to fight this right now? Am I safe? Am I worried? Am I, you know, what are the things that may happen? So thank you for being a part of it, because it's the mask in its full effect, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Totally. I can't agree more. I love this mask exercise. I mean, this was hard for me doing this mask. I was like, I'm going to be honest, you know, I did 2 copies. First copy, I had like all this crazy stuff, and I was like, okay. And it was just really interesting thinking about the part of you that you show, that you're okay with showing, that you're more than okay with showing, versus the part of you that is more like, I don't know if I would freely show that, you know? And so I thought it was a really good way of doing that. So thank you for bringing it to my attention, you know?
Well, thank you for participating. I mean, I think that's where the conversation goes, is like, what can I write? What can I handle? What can they handle? What's gonna make me feel too vulnerable? What's gonna make me feel unsafe? Like all the layers of what we have to decide. So, and now that we've talked about it, let's jump in. Yeah. So if any of you out there want to make a mask, you know, you can go to 100kmasks.com to make your mask and be a part of this movement. And the movement is growing. You're gonna hear some great news coming up soon about what we got going on. But Thomas, welcome to the show. And we let our guests decide who goes first. So either you want to go first or you want me to go first. And then what we'll do is we'll share the front, and then we'll share the back, and then we'll, you know, the conversation will take it wherever it's ready to go, you know?
Awesome. Do you want me to show it to the camera, or do you want me to, what's the?
Yeah, ideally, if you share it, you show it, and then, you know, then.
So let's see if I can do this here.
I'll just show the front first. Maybe fold it in half.
All right.
Yeah, just fold it in half. Yeah, just so that we don't spoil what's gonna. We want to build.
We're doing drama here.
A little suspense, you know. It's just important.
I get it. So here we go. Here's my mask, so everyone can see. And I'm going to read you what I put here. Okay. Do you want me to just read all three of the things?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And then anything you want to say about it. Yeah.
All right. So the first one is my passion and dedication, my empathy and compassion, and my lightheartedness, I would say, are the three things that I am 100% okay with showing to the world. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, on the front of mine, I wrote, it's interesting design today. I don't know. Funny, caring, and hardworking.
I relate to that. I relate to that. I was coupled. That was like similar to the first version of mine. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. I like it.
So anything on the front that stands out to you? Anything on the front that you want to highlight or talk about, or
well, it's interesting. I don't know, like the lightheartedness I thought was an interesting thing that came out of it.
Yeah.
Kind of my ability to be able to be like, oh, like when stressful things happen, to kind of shove it off and be like, it's all good, like we've got this. But internally, that may not be the case. Right. And so it's really easy for me to put out a front of being like calm in a storm. Right. So I thought that was an interesting thing or a quality that I never really kind of put a name to. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about caring, and normally I've made hundreds of masks. So
yeah,
I used to keep similar words most of the time, but caring is a new one that I believe fully, but I didn't really write. I never wrote it. I used to write serious all the time, and then serious and hardworking, and then funny. Right.
Yeah.
But caring is one that I've been really like realizing that a deep part of my connection to others, a deep part of my willingness to be open is through caring, is through doing my best to care for others. And sometimes I care more for others than I even pay attention to myself.
Yeah.
Which has been really interesting to think about. And I was listening to, so that's something that stood out right there. Caring. Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's funny because from the little we've known of each other, I would associate you with caring almost automatically. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting that you haven't written that before.
Yeah, it's only been in the last couple of weeks. I think before it was like serious, hardworking, funny. So I think the hardworking and serious is where the caring was, but I never, until I heard a man say it, I'm like, why haven't I never written that word? So I've been really embracing it and realizing that deep down, like if I think of a lot of the frustrations that come in my life is because I care about stuff so much, right?
Yep.
I care about this work a lot. I care about the young people a lot. I care about the young people who are like right now hiding and running from me right now, who don't want to have hard conversations right now. Like, and I'm like, okay, Jonathan, you got to back off, right? And that idea is that it's a big part of me. Right. And I guess I always attribute it to being serious, and maybe it comes off so much as serious as opposed to as caring. And I got, I think,
That's interesting. I put serious on the first draft. I was like serious and hardworking. So I had those words there, but I was like, what is that really? And I was thinking about it. It was passion and dedication, right? So like I have a passion I'm willing to suffer for the things I'm doing because I deeply care about the people I'm serving, the ideology behind it, the intent, all these things. And I'm totally willing to share that because when I share my passion and my dedication to something, I see it's contagious a little bit. People either run away or they get inspired, just by being in that space, when you are okay with sharing that you're passionate about doing what you love and what you're doing.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It does. Without a doubt. And I think that that's deeply connected to not only the work that you've created, but also how it continues to grow. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think how it continues to grow. Right. So, passion. Wow. How? Okay. I think it's gonna come up.
Oh man, you're asking. You didn't finish that question.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's not a question show. I gotta force myself. But it's not a really fully formulated question. It was more about passion and dedication. I think I've been like riffing off of this idea for a lot of years around dedication, around how how these words have pushed me, right?
Yeah.
Like not the dedication, determination, and desire, right? Like
Right.
those 3 Ds have really like helped guide me in a lot of ways. And
Yes.
it's when you said that word, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that word again. And it's like, okay, right? So just call it in, to like call it into being, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there may be more to say about the front, but let's move to the back then.
Okay.
All right. And
Right.
since you decided to go first, and you'll be first.
Mm-hmm. So I won't show it because there's no mask, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the first mask is insecure, or the first word in my first mask. First word is insecure. Second is playful, and third is sensitive. Yeah, and so that was the hard one, the back for sure. And it's funny because I come off as being already vulnerable a lot. So it was like, what do I not show? What am I not okay with showing? And yeah, it definitely, and there's other things in there, I think.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that after you show your side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me see. So it says fear of failure, trauma, and mental health. And mental health is mostly about family.
Yeah.
But I've been reading a lot and been looking at a lot of articles about mental health lately, and it's really been stirring. And definitely what the most recent article I read is about, how many kids right now are dealing with mental health issues that are not being supported and that are being exacerbated by this loneliness and isolation right now. And I wrote a post. I was replying to a man's post, and I was like, this is the work that we're trying to do in my work, right? And I was like, I mean, it was, when you reply to somebody's post, you don't necessarily write a book. So I was like, what are you doing, Ashanti? Like what I realized, and I have a fear of writing. So the fact that I had this long post, I'm like, I better change it. So I changed it. I copied it somewhere else. I didn't send it. I sent just a small one sentence. And then I made a post where I actually said it myself, and I'm like,
Exactly.
It's time. Like I have a lot to say about this. And I mean, anyway, so that one that stood out to me. And then I have a brother who has schizophrenia. So, paranoid schizophrenia. So a lot of his decisions don't make sense to me. Don't make, and I have to battle myself with getting frustrated with him. And yeah, so anyway, those are the ones that are coming up. And then trauma is, mostly childhood stuff, but stuff that I'm working through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. And I used to work, and I have family members with schizophrenia as well. And I used to work at a mental health facility as a counselor for people with schizoaffective disorders and stuff. And so mental health is definitely, the one thing I realized about mental health, because this is also very in line with my back of my mask, is how similar I am to a lot of people. Like there's this big, I forgot the exact word right now, stigma with mental health, right? And working there, I realized how similar my thinking was to a lot of people who were diagnosed with disorders. And I think something that popped out of me was like, these are just, these are human beings, right? These are human beings. And I think we all have mental health issues on some level. No one's perfect. And I don't think anyone should be, and I think we live in a society that does not value humanity enough. And so that means we're going to have mental health issues because we don't have a society that's nourishing for us. It's acceptable to do unhealthy things in our society. It's acceptable to be addicted to alcohol and caffeine and these things, as long as you get ahead, as long as you're constantly pushing that meritocracy narrative, right? And so I think mental health is very in line. And that's my first one was insecure, and that's really tied to mental health. That's for me, that's I've been insecure about like my body. I've been insecure about my lifestyle, like my cleanliness. That's a weird one, but that's very specific. And as in like how organized I am in work, or how organized I'm at my house, or things like that. And I think that insecurity is something where I do have a fear of like rejection. I have a fear of rejection from other people, right? And so I don't really like to, I wouldn't freely share that, right, with other people. Like somewhere inside me, I always ask like, oh, did I offend you? Did I do this? Did I do that? And that's always the thoughts that are on in my head. But it's been a practice just to let go of that, right? And just kind of move forward, because your life will be derailed if you're constantly thinking about, did you offend somebody, or did you say the wrong thing, or did you do the wrong thing? Does that make sense?
Oh man, so in so many areas. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but let's start with that one. Like, I think that because when I work with young people, like even the adults I know, but like when somebody starts replying,
Yeah.
my mind goes into like, okay, let me think. Let me go look at the replay of what I said before, right? Sometimes I'm on like serious, like get stuff done mode, and I could be like quick, right? And I'm like, okay, no, I don't think I said anything, and then I'm wondering, okay, like all of that.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And I think one thing you also talked about when you talked about that part was like the, like image, right? And I know I've been a big guy my whole life, and I've been on this roller coaster and mostly on the, I don't know which is the up or down, maybe the downside of the roller coaster I've been on before. Just like, I'm at the bottom of this bottle of this, or a bag of this, or a box of whatever. And I think I remember just always feeling like, what is those things? And I didn't know they were connected to emotional stuff. I didn't know that my eating was connected to emotional stuff until, I mean, literally probably the last year. Like, I think it hit that point where it was like, this is not healthy. I remember seeing a picture of me at a retreat in February, and I was like, who is that? Who's that? Who was that in the picture? And I was mad at the person who took the picture. This is how I knew something was wrong. I was mad at the person who took the picture from that angle, because it made my face look so. And I'm like, Ashanti, that's your face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you gonna get mad at the photographer? Right? Like, it's you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh. And I remember just like, and then started doing some work around it. But I think it's been a journey, right? It hasn't been easy. I mean, it was easier just to go ahead and keep doing what I was doing. That was the easiest thing, right? Because it's painful, And I don't know anybody. I don't know addiction to alcohol or drugs, and I know an addiction.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to have like a plate of cookies, like call you, like, you know what I'm saying? And I think for people who don't get it, they don't get it. They're like, oh, you just don't have any willpower. Well, I wish I could like turn it off. I wish it was. I'd never chosen the idea that I was going to eat for comfort.
Yeah.
Why? Why would, I don't know why anybody would choose that, but why would I have chosen that? And I realized, man, it's one of those things that, man, when you talk about society allows certain things, right? Like, alcohol, it's okay, right? But there's certain things that don't work, right, with society, right? And for me personally, it didn't work. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I remember a man who I've been following on Instagram, and I interviewed him last week. We talked about it. We talked about my addiction to food,
right,
and how that was connected to my childhood trauma that I never got dealt with. So I went to food for comfort. Because I was like, I can control that. I feel so good. And it just keep feeling good, right? Just like, I'm gonna just make sure I'm keeping feeling good as often as I can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that is you're touching my whole life. I was never taught. So when I was born, we would like go to McDonald's, or no, when I was young, when I was a little kid. Okay, we would go to McDonald's. I was at this time I was with my mom, so she was a single mom, me and her. I remember we'd go through a lot of stressful things, right? But when we went to McDonald's, we would get like these chicken nuggets, right? And I remember they looked like a little boot, looked like a little thing. And you would like kind of play with it. I would take the skin off. It would this whole experience, right? But it was a soothing experience, right? It was a soothing experience. And so food for me has always been a comfort thing, without me being aware of it, right? Um, it really hit me though, the power of the mind is when I saw a picture. So, and I've always been a big guy, and I've always said that. But when I was about maybe 19 or 18 years old. I left home, moved to Santa Cruz. Was like this kind of hippie, lived in a tent in the woods, was just like totally simplified my life, this whole thing. And during that time, I didn't really eat much. I was like very into just 100% like vegan, raw food kind of things. But I still in my head was a big guy, right? I was still a big guy. I was always a big guy, always a big guy. Whenever I looked in the mirror, I was like, man, I'm big, all this stuff. So skip ahead, maybe like 8, 10, 9 years later, I see a picture and there's always pictures, right? Like you said, I see a picture of myself and I was like, who is that? And I was like, that's me. And I was skinny, I was thin, I was seemingly healthy, all this stuff. And I was like, but that doesn't make sense because I don't remember being that. Right? I never remember being that. And so from that point on, I realized, yes, you can lose weight. You can just lose all the weight. But until you work on your mind and accepting and loving who you are at this moment, you're never going to understand the feeling that you want, or you're never going to get to the point where you want, right? And so I'm all for extremes. I go extreme on everything. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to work out every day. I'll wake up at 5 a.m., do push-ups, cold shower. I'll put myself through a boot camp, I'll lose a bunch of weight. I'll even lose like 60 pounds or something. I'll go crazy, but then that weight just comes right back on eventually because I'm not working on the things I actually need to be working on. And that's emotional health. That's taking care of your being and yourself. And I think it's not until this year or this past 2 years, probably, where I've just been, I would say longer than that, of accepting who I am. And then it's not till recently where I've been just like, I'm just going to accept where I'm at and try to find little things that can kind of hopefully guide me in the right direction. But I'm not going to trip anymore about because what would happen is I would feel, and maybe you relate to this because you're a public figure, right? I would feel like I'm big. I don't look good. I don't look like this. And so I don't want to go out and do anything. I don't want to go out in public eye. I don't want to go behind the camera. I don't want to be taking pictures at unflattering angles and so it would prevent me from doing what I'm here to do, my purpose in life. Right. And so this has always been a fight. And so I this past 2 years, I've been like, I'm not going to let it hold me back. I'm just going to go out there and just like accept who I am fully and just be that. And like, sure, if I lose weight, that's great, but I want to be healthy. I want to fulfill my purpose, which means I have to eat healthy so that I have the energy to do that. Right. I have to tie it to my purpose, because what happens on the past, every time I try to lose weight, every time it had nothing to do with my purpose. It was vanity. It was just about looking a certain way. It was never about fulfilling my life's purpose. How does this connect with fulfilling my life's purpose? And once I realized that is what I have to be looking at, I feel like I'm much better off of it. I'm much better for it. I don't know if you resonate with that, and I'm just making assumptions and all this stuff. So, please let me know your view on that.
Man, I mean, okay, so lots of things I'm thinking about right now, but I guess when you talked about accept where I'm at, it resonated in lots of ways. The man Chuck, who really kind of began to help me see it in a different way, right? Like I've been on the 90-day juicing cleanse, right? And I'm like, I was feeling so amazing, and then I was like, okay, it's over. And then it was all over, right? It was like because it wasn't, I can be dedicated. I can get stuff done. But I hadn't changed what you said. Like I hadn't changed the lifestyle, the thought process, I hadn't changed the roots. The roots, I just kept chopping it off at the top and making it look better on the outside. But the roots were still like underneath, just brewing. And one of the things that you said, when you took accepting where I'm at, there's this writer, he's a philosopher. His name is Parker Palmer, and this quote I've heard from him. He wrote a book I read was called Courage to Teach. But one of the things that he talks about is this idea of the critical gap. And so the critical gap is in between the world as it is, and the world as I would want it to be.
Yes.
Now, there's not really a gap, but you can imagine you could just be philosophical about it for a moment and say, well, the world as it is the way it is. I'm in that. But what if I was to be on the other, like toward the edge of where it's at? Because if I'm not liking where it's at and I really want it to be somewhere else, how about I not just bathe in where it's at? Yeah. How about I move toward the edge of where it's at in steps every day towards where I want it to be? Yes. Like, and then if we can stand in that critical gap right there, then I'm always in search of where I'm at, where I want, recognizing that this is just what it is. But as opposed, and when I talk to young people with that analogy, they get it. Like, yeah, you're going through these challenges, you're going through this trauma, you're going through the situation. Just take a breath a minute. And how about let's just move to the edge of it? And what if like the next step you take is towards what you want? What if the next moment, the next action, the next day, the next... And I remember, and I'm saying this out loud because yesterday I was supposed to go on a bike ride, and I was like, I don't want to go ride. I want to be fit. Yeah, I want to be fit, but I'm tired. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. And I was having my personal temper. I was having a personal battle, and I didn't go ride. I was like, and then it was too dark. I was like, it's too dark now. I'm not gonna go ride. And so I didn't ride, right? And I think that is exactly that place. Is like, okay, do I just stay in? I don't like it. I don't want to. Mm-hmm. Right. And the edge of that is, here's what I want to be. I want to be able to jump on my bike at any time and just go ride, not making excuses about my neighborhood is not safe and people can't drive and I don't want to get hit by a car. All the excuses I've made up that kept me in the house, not on the bike, is not taking me towards what I want. Yeah. And so I it's not something that I'm saying out loud about this critical gap. I know that it's sometimes challenging even to be right there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and another thing that pops up is I know I can do a lot without being completely healthy. I know I can get away with doing stuff, right? And so like if I have to make money or I have to work on my business or I have to work on whatever, I'll prioritize those things first because I know I can do it, right? Yeah. Yeah. And while like riding a bike, I relate to that. When I'm in the boot camp mode, I can do anything. I feel like I'm determined, I'm solid, but when I'm in like an everyday mode, I'm like, I don't want to go out and ride a bike right now. I don't want to go do that, and I know it's going to make me healthier. I know it's going to do this. And so what I ended up settling on is, you know what, I'm going to take baby steps to it. Right. And I every time I say that, I think of this movie called What About Bob? I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's with Bill Murray in it.
I know I've seen it. I'm trying to remember what it's about.
It's a long time. It's like in the 80s. And it's but I won't explain it, but baby steps, kind of like little steps toward the thing. So I'll like do some stretching in the morning and I'll do like a little bit of exercise in the morning, just to get my head right,
Yeah.
And so that I am ready for the day. And I'm going to be honest, like sometimes I don't do it. And because I just go right on my phone and decide to go on email and social media and check on everything and respond to things and that whole game. Right. And, but see, that's something that I've been working on, right? That is something that I continue to work on. Yeah. And one of the biggest things for me is just not to stress anymore about it, right? Not to stress anymore about it because of when you don't do it. And I think that's, if you follow people like David Goggins and, Tim Ferriss and all these cats who are really, with Jocko, all these cats who are really into like discipline and getting it done and all this stuff, right? They would push back heavily against this mentality, but you know what? I think for me personally, emotional stress is my biggest issue. And stressing about not fulfilling a promise I made to myself in the morning of riding a bike, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to do something else. And I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to try to do like 30 push-ups or something today, or do 10. I do this thing where I do 10 push-ups every door I walk through. So sometimes, but it's a little bit more fun for me. And eventually I know I'll get there and I have a commitment to it. But I'm not going to stress about missed opportunities. Opportunities. I don't know if that's the right word, but if I don't have the discipline in the morning, sometimes, I'm not going to trip about it. I'm gonna I know I'm going to get there. I know I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of time. And I just have to be patient with myself. And so those are reminders I tell myself, right? When I'm going down this path.
Well, I think it's beautiful as a person who runs an organization, right?
Yeah.
You have shown yourself, right? I think we talked about this idea of like, I'm gonna just do the stuff that I know I can do, right? Like I know I can work hard. Like I think hard working shows up on the front, right? Big time, most of the time, and serious, because I know I can be hardworking. I know I can be serious. And sometimes I'm funny, right? Sometimes I like to laugh. I like to laugh, but if the joke doesn't work, I laugh at myself because the joke wasn't funny, right?
Right.
But when I'm talking about the other stuff, when I wasn't addressing it or dealing with it, it was like one of those moments where you're like, maybe I'm not working on it because I feel like I'm not good at it, and then therefore I tell myself a story about it, and therefore I don't want to. And I think one of the things that I'm just saying, the last thing about what Chuck said was I was in this battle one day. I was in a store and I was like ready to throw it all out the window. And I was like, he was like, and I felt weird first of all sending him a text. I'm like, have you had that moment where you like, there's something you're not supposed to get, but you want to do it anyway? And I was like, and he called me. He was like, yeah, he said, here's what I encourage you to do. Just do it and then enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, because the idea is that you have a way of like dealing with it where you like, I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to beat myself up for the next 2 weeks because I'm going to be like stressing about it. Like I should not. Hey, like you can reset again tomorrow. Right. Yeah. And I think this idea is that having him who has, had some amazing success in his own, journey for me was like, and it doesn't just show up in my eating, it shows up in my work too.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you look at my desk, when you talk about like organized, I'm so glad all you see is this little rectangle right here. Because like those who can't see me, like my desk is a mess. I remember having one of my team members. I was on a presentation. I said, "Will you take a couple pictures for me?" And then she came and took some pictures of me, and I was going to share them later that day, and a video too. And so I got home that night. I was going to post it, and I was like, "Why did she take that picture? That's not the picture I wanted." That's not the picture I had created. I created this picture right here. Like she had my whole desk. I mean, my desk looked like Dilbert. I had like piles of stuff on both sides of this computer that no one can see when I'm looking at them right now. But my desk is a mess. And I'm like, how funny. And how funny I don't want to share it because what's really behind the scenes is not as pretty as what I've created in the image, right?
Yep.
And I was like, that's that mask again.
And that's one of the first things I put on my back was that kind of under the umbrella of insecure is that idea that I put my identity into these things. I put my identity into almost everything I do, but I also put it into like being messy or clean or whatever, because I have different priorities, and and how I deal with that, right, is just I don't even know how I work with that right now, but I do have employees now that help me out a lot. And, because, there's something about accepting where you're at in the sense of, maybe you're not supposed to be the most clean person. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that energy is being put toward like being the visionary of the business, and maybe that's okay to just accept that, and I think I heard this interview with Simon Sinek with Brene Brown. And I was like, wow, that's a combo that I want to listen to, and so I listened to them. And I remember Simon Sinek saying, I am embarrassingly unorganized. And if you see Simon Sinek's like outside appearance, you would never think that, right? You would and that was the beauty of that interview, was like it kind of gave me an okay of like, wow, there's successful people out there who may not be super organized and super on it. And I think to me, that gives me the okay to be able to just go out there and be who I am authentically.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard. Right. And so in this back of the mask exercise, that kind of ties in with like the second one, which is like playful. Like if you ask my wife, I'm super playful. I'm like ridiculously weird and do weird dancing and like a whole weird craziness, right? I'm just playful as hell. But I would never be that way in public as much. You know what I mean? Like not, just with like a friend or something, but that's something that is kind of connected with that as well. That kind of part of yourself you don't want to really show to the world, right?
Does that mean you're not gonna be on TikTok? You're not gonna be
do a little dance? Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think so anytime. I don't think anytime soon. But it's just it was something interesting that popped up because I see a lot of these masks that wrote, and a lot of people put like anxiety, depression, which I am that was on my list, right? Anxiety, all that stuff. And I feel like I'm pretty open with talking about my anxiety, though. It's not something I really hide anymore. I'm like, and so it would have been an easy cop out for me. It would have been like, yeah, anxiety, totally, like, but I'm pretty open with that. I'm pretty open with how that has affected my everyday life and still does. But playfulness is something weird because it's vulnerable, right? Like as men, especially, I think there's a lot of shame in just like going out and dancing, right? If you don't know how to dance or being kind of funny and goofy, uh, when those behaviors are not attributed to success and being a man in our modern day society. And so that is a part of myself, which I've kind of looked at. I'm like, wow, I'm like super playful. I do weird dances when I'm comfortable with somebody. It takes me forever to get comfortable with somebody, but when I do, like, I'm just like kind of goofy. And I'm like, you know, that's that's something I need to look at. So I appreciate you letting me find that.
Well, I'm glad you did, and thank you for participating. I think I'm glad that you. But even before you started, you spoke, because I'm gonna ask at this point, how was that experience? But before you even started, you spoke to how you had these two different ones and how challenging they are, and how man it's like which ones. What do I really want to show, and how can I be more like what will be a way I can go deeper, right? And that's what we've been seeing. I mean, when we talk to people around the world about these masks, they get it. And they understand that, oh man, how amazing it would be if we didn't have to worry about that all the time, right? Like if we didn't have to, I mean, young people, and then not only young people, adults know, but young people know that there's rules around how much you can get to share. And I think I heard somebody say, so often we're comparing our behind the scenes to somebody's highlight reel.
Exactly.
So we only know what we're dealing with. We know all of our stuff, but when we see other people's highlight reel, we're like, man, why don't I? Well, because you're not comparing. You're comparing everything about you to what the best of somebody when they're out there showing it.
Right. They're tailored. They're tailored image.
That's right.
What was the second thing on your back of the mask? I forgot.
Yeah, I wrote a trauma, like childhood.
Trauma. Oh, childhood trauma. That makes sense. Yeah. And I mean, and that was that. Yeah, that's another one that's popping up. So there's just a lot of things that can go behind the mask, right? And I think with this exercise, it's really good because you get to explore these weird things. And I'll mention the last one here just so that we can kind of top it off. I know we're running out of time, but
okay. Go ahead, brother, do it.
But sensitive, right? I've always been a sensitive kid, always been a sensitive person, but throughout my growing up, that has been something where you've had to learn to manage your sensitivities. But the weird thing is it hasn't gone anywhere, right? It hasn't really gone anywhere. I'm just as sensitive about little things and big things. I've just had a elaborate mask to be able to cover it, right? And so it's an interesting one. I went to a group once, and I ended up crying because I got really sensitive. I got really sensitive about what feelings were going around, and someone recognized that, and they said, like, I appreciate my willingness to go there. And I was like, man, I was not, I don't know if I was willing to go there, but it happened. Right. And I think, it's a weird one that I don't know really how to use in life. Right. It's, what's too sensitive, what's not sensitive enough. It just seems pretty broad, I guess, like what to do with this awareness.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's I don't know if you saw Dave Chappelle's speech when he got the Mark Twain Award, and what he said is that his mom had always told him. He said he was a sensitive kid, and his mom told him that sometimes you have to be the lion to be the lamb that you really are.
Yeah.
Right. And this idea that sometimes the part of ourselves that is sensitive and caring, and like those are qualities my mom taught me. But I was clear that I remember people saying, stop helping everybody up. Like when people would fall, I'll help people up. Like I was a nurturer. I was helping raise my siblings. Like I'm taking care of babies. I'm helping with the formula. I'm a nurturer. That's how I was raised. Right. So when somebody gets hurt, I feel it. Right. But I remember being on the playground, people saying, stop helping people up. And I was confused by that, but I'm realizing, you can't be like that out here.
Yeah.
You can only be like that at home, because at home is respected. Out here it makes you look soft and weak, or whatever other name people want to call to it. Not manly, not masculine. Don't be too nice. Stop smiling all the time. Why are you smiling all the time?
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know. I remember being asked the questions and not having an answer because I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
And I remember how you get confined into this box, and you get careful, because if you decide to stay out the box, you know I'm saying, I know, me as a person knows that then you're gonna get pushed away, because you're gonna have to be by yourself on the playground. You can't hang around with the other kids because they're gonna make fun of you, and so that you can't be with the boys. You must hang out over there with the girls or with somebody else, because you're not a real man. You're not a real boy.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's interesting. How did you deal with that when, as a kid? Did you conform to fitting in the box, or did you? Yeah.
I conformed.
Yeah.
I became a fighter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I got suspended from elementary maybe 20 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all for fighting. All for fighting. It was like, all right, well, I recognize that the nice, kind, caring part of me is not working here.
Yeah.
Or let me go to the other side. And I was really good at the other side. I didn't like it. I never started to fight.
Yeah.
I don't even like fighting. Like, it doesn't make, but I'm clear that there's rules. You're gonna be a tattletale. You're gonna be a snitch. You're gonna be a little wimp. You're gonna go tell it. You're gonna be, you're gonna let them pick on you. So now everyone picks on you.
Yeah.
And then it became bad, because now you prove it. You fight one person, now everyone else wants to test you. Oh, you think you're tough? You think you're tough? Oh, you did him like that. You won't do me like that. And then you're after you look up, you're having to prove it to everybody, because all the kids now think you're the tough guy, or that you think that you're the tough guy. And I never thought that ever. I just wanted to be. Can I just be the lamb? You know what I'm saying? Oh no, not here. You can't. You could, but there's consequences to that too, right? Yeah. And so that quote, which I never heard until Dave Chappelle said it, rang very true for me. So
yeah, no, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful, and that hurts a little bit, just feeling that for that boy, and I think I was blessed and lucky. I mean, I don't know if that was the case, but because I remember that same pressure, and then like being like beat up in the bathroom and this whole stuff, right, and the whole thing, but it's weird. My mind, I think I'm a little too stubborn or something. I was like, I'm gonna still do this, and I ended up just being a loner, just not getting around, getting along with other kids as much, and I just enjoyed my own company. I was the kid on the play. You're talking about the playground. I was like at the corner of the fence or something, like just like looking at sticks or something. I don't even know, but it was like my own company, right? It was my own company, and since being raised by, mother, primarily, who I was really close to, I got along with women really well. I was able to connect with them. Guys would always tease and make fun of me, and I just was like, and I remember my first fight. I punched somebody really hard, and I was a big guy, and I said sorry. That was my first reaction. My first reaction when I hit somebody was to say sorry. And then I wanted to help them, but by that time it was like, you're like in it. And I just remember after that moment, I was like, I'm not doing this. And I am a fighter in my life, and about getting stuff done and standing up. But it's just, I feel like there's fights that are worthy and fights that aren't. And all my life I've like been shameful about being kind of the loner kid and not fitting into that box and all that stuff. But I realized that did give me this level of understanding of people and humanity, because I had the ability to observe from the outside. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of my personal experience with that kind of thing as well.
It all makes sense. And absolutely. It's clear that so many layers of what you're talking about in your story. And as I think about young people, when you think about kids who are in the playground by themselves, when you think about what is caused that, was it self or was it others? Like where did that happen? And anytime when I was a vice principal, when I was a teacher, any kid I saw on campus by himself, it was like my unwritten job was to go and shake them up. Like to go and get in their space. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Give me a high five. Like I wanna like, like I wanna shake your hand. Like I wanna be like, hey, what are you doing? Right. Like, and just let them because as much as I didn't play by myself, I know the feeling of being in a group and feeling alone.
Yep.
And so
exactly.
So watching someone alone doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I get to do the work I get to do. And I think we're gonna need a part 2. We're gonna need a part 2.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna need a part 2 because I don't think we're gonna get it all out right now. But I think, man, there's so much that you are saying and that you've said that really resonates. And I think you imagine, I mean, when you think about it, well, when I think about it, you talked about being on the playground, playing with sticks, and then living in Santa Cruz in the trees in a tent.
Yeah.
Like, how much more can you play with sticks than to be living
alone in a tent in the woods?
Yeah.
Your own company, staring at a river every morning. Yeah, it's a whole thing, but it was definitely a time of self-reliance and understanding, myself and my identity, and what I'm here to do, really.
Absolutely.
It's kind of my own journey, I guess.
I guess you wake up every morning to music, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's more like wake up to an email.
Man. Only by choice. I know.
Right. I know.
So when we start that morning pages, you're gonna realize how
I'm waiting for my book, man. I'm waiting for my book.
It's coming.
It's in the mail.
So Thomas and I are gonna do we're going through the Artist Way, and I'm on week 3 right now, but I may have to come back and hook her back around. But you're gonna feel when it starts. I'm so excited for you. Listen, will you tell folks how they can get in touch with you, what you're up to, and so I can, and I believe that we're gonna have to figure a way, and whether it's in the podcast way or some other way, we're gonna get back together. And we already talking about some other business projects we're gonna tell you all about, but we got some things in the works. So let me go ahead and let you tell folks how they can reach out to you, and then we will find a time to connect again. I do believe that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was really impactful and just, warmed my heart. It vulnerable was great. And so you can find me at speakforchangepodcast.com. I honestly am probably more heavily on Instagram. So if you want to reach out to me, just reach out to me on Instagram or something, which is Speak for Change Podcast. And you can, I'm the CEO of Everyone's Music School. I don't teach as much, but my teachers are amazing. Our mission is to create positive and lasting change in people's lives with music education. So if you want to find me there, you can. Or if you want to take music lessons, we do online lessons everywhere, right? So just feel free to reach out. And find me on Instagram. You get to see all the crazy things I'm up to, because I'm up to a lot of them. And I think that's about it.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for being on the show today. Thanks for being in this conversation, and for we could go on more. I know we could, and I'm looking forward to more. There's more to be told, right?
Yes, of course.
More to be told. Thank you for taking off the mask with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Perfect.
All right. If what you heard today you enjoyed, if you've listened to this and you found something inspiring, please like and subscribe to this podcast. That's the best way for someone to find this podcast, maybe like you did, please tell someone about it. If you know, listen to some of our previous episodes, and if one of them rings out to you, please share it with somebody you know. We also invite people to join us in a face-to-face where they come together with another person to make a mask and talk about that mask together. There's short conversations, about 20, 30 minutes. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please send us a message, send us in the comments below, let us know that you're interested in that. And we look forward to you joining the movement of the Million Mask Movement. And check out our new shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but this is our new shirt, the Million Mask Movement. And so we'll have these soon available, but we look forward to you being a part of the movement and supporting our work. Please consider supporting the work that we do in Ever Forward and in the work that we do in the Million Mask Movement to let people around the world realize that they're not alone. Thank you.